Welcome to That's a Bet podcast, where we talk about the intersection between barbering, entrepreneurship, and technology. In this next video, we're going to talk about job listing qualifications. I was talking to one of my clients, and she's trying to find a job right now. Actually, I have several clients that have been looking for jobs in different positions, and it's bad out there, especially if you're in the project management sector or the tech industry. It's bad out there. A lot of people have been having a hard time finding jobs. It's so many people looking for jobs. They're trying to figure out, the algorithm on LinkedIn, and how do you get past all the artificial intelligent searches when companies are using AI to, scan through resumes, and you got to know what keywords to look for and what keywords to put into your resume. And, so many different qualifications going on right now in order to get a job. It just kind of begs the question, are these qualifications legitimate? Are they are these qualifications necessary in order for people to work at jobs? I know a lot of people that have degrees, but in the jobs that they're working, they're not even using the information or the knowledge from their degrees. So we're going to take a look into this video about job listing qualifications, because I've been talking to a lot of people that have been having a hard time finding the positions, and we want to kind of see what's going on in the market right now. So let's get into it.
Picture yourself on the hunt for a new job. After scrolling through numerous job postings, you finally land on one that seems to be a perfect fit. That's until you see the required years of experience, necessary certifications, and a host of skills you need to be proficient in. In 2023, 42% of employees felt they were excluded from job opportunities due to a lack of formal qualifications or experience. Lacking enough of the right experience, skills, credentials, and/or education ranked second among the biggest barriers for job seekers in 2022.
And see, that's crazy to me. Well, let me take a minute. Let me say pause. Because I do understand that you have to have a certain skill set, a certain value of skill set to bring to the company, in order to do the job that they're training you to do. The part that I see somewhat of a problem with is when it comes to the credentials. Because as I stated earlier in the intro to this video, I've heard a lot of people say that they're not even using the knowledge that they learn within their degree. They're not even using that knowledge in their business or in their work that they're doing on a regular basis. And a lot of times people are saying that they're learning on the job. So when it comes to credentials, I don't like to say I'm on the fence, but I'm leaning more towards us having some type of change when it comes to the type of credentials that we use to qualify people to work for an employer. Right now, there's a big issue going on with student loan debt. And the primary reason that we have all this student loan debt is because of this right here, the credentials that are necessary in order to get a job. If employers were not requiring people to have these 4-year degrees that are worthless, if employers didn't require us to, have 4 years of college or 6 years of college, or 8 years of college in order to work at their place of employment, then more opportunities will be available to people, and people wouldn't experience a lack of credentials in terms of finding employment, because it's just so many people that I talk to that have these degrees or got into these positions that don't have degrees. I've talked to either one or two different types of people that don't have a degree, but that got into the position because of who they knew, or people that have the degree and got into the position, but don't even use the information or the knowledge from the degree that they have in that position. So it's almost like, is there something else at work here? Did the government and the college universities get together and make a plan and say that this is how it's going to be so that somebody could win and people at the bottom could lose and have to go through this maze and try to figure everything out? Something about it just kind of seems off to me. And you know, not having enough credentials being the number two reason why people are experiencing these barriers to find a new job, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Market today is definitely tougher than the job market we've seen over the last couple of years.
Many job seekers don't know what they're qualified for and feel that they're unqualified for jobs even that on paper look like a good fit.
Meanwhile, companies say they are putting skills first.
There has been a shift over the past few years towards skills-based hiring, with employers far more concerned about employees' experience and skills than even their degrees.
46% of companies plan to increase their hiring in the first half of 2024 because their current employees lack the required skills. 79%.
And that's rightfully so. As an employer, if you don't look at the market in whole and see that, especially with the rise of the internet, that people are opting to not go to college as much because they see the student loan debt, they see the value of the degree and how people have degrees and still struggling to find jobs. They're looking for other ways to make money. So the number of degrees may possibly be even declining. I'd have to look into that. That'd be something that I might be interested in looking into, is as far as like the number of degrees that have been getting issued over time. Is that number increasing or is it decreasing? But employers, they know that they might be missing out on a good hire. Just because somebody doesn't have a college degree doesn't mean that they wouldn't be a good hire for a company. So rightfully so, employers should be putting skills first. And if a person doesn't have skills, they should have some type of training program put in place. Me personally, I say I wouldn't be opposed to, making it mandatory that or making it discriminatory that you can't hire someone based on them not having a degree. If someone doesn't have a degree, you're not allowed to discriminate against them, from hiring them because because they don't have a degree. You should take the degree qualification. You should take that off of the application. And if we did that, how would that impact the colleges? How would that impact college enrollment if you don't need a degree to get a good job? And that's because the company that you work for, they should bear the responsibility of training you and hiring you and prepping you. And because, put it like this, think about this for a second. If you go to a college university, they're going to train you somewhat on how to do the work that is typically in that industry, but you're going to get a whole bunch of general education curriculum courses that you don't really need, just so that you could be quote unquote well-rounded, and that really so as the colleges can make more money off of you for classes that you don't even need, or going straight to the corporation and doing something like an apprenticeship program or training on a job program or learning on a job type of thing, to where you're investing into that company, because when you get done with the training, you're going to continue to stay with that company, and they've invested in you. You've invested in them, and they might be less likely to get rid of you. And on top of that, you don't have to worry about taking any general education curriculum courses. You don't have to worry about any unnecessary courses that you would have to take if it was left up to the corporations to do all the training and the education on how to do the job. And you wouldn't need student loans. The federal student loan program wouldn't be necessary at that point. So all this student loan debt that we're talking about is primarily because the employers have this mandate that you got to have a 4-year degree, a 6-year, 8-year degree in order to work here, when in reality, those degrees don't really mean nothing. I'm not gonna say they don't mean nothing, but they don't mean nothing, if you know what I mean. Like, because people with degrees don't necessarily rule the world. Every time I see, big corporations, that have founders, or see a story about, somebody that dropped out of college and started this big old company, and now they're running this big old company and controlling a lot of the economy in the United States. We hear those stories quite often. So, college is not what it used to be. The internet, I think, kind of, destroyed that. So everybody can just go online and Google what they need to know. And in terms of getting that degree, it's just not as valuable as it used to be. Let's keep going.
Of workers and hiring managers said that skills, experience, and past accomplishments are more valuable than credentials and education.
I think right now we see businesses work.
If it's more valuable, let's go ahead and take it off of the application. Let's take, do you have a college degree, off of the application, so that people won't continue to feel like they need to go to college universities and get these student loans and go into debt. Then let's go ahead and make an impact in the community that way.
Working together and trying to identify what are the skills that are really necessary to do the jobs for which they're hiring today, and to be able to predict the jobs that they will be hiring for in the coming months and years.
So why are job requirements becoming more demanding? And what implications does it have for both job seekers and the economy as a whole?
The US labor market has cooled in recent months because overall economic activity has cooled. We had a big bout of inflation, and the Fed raised interest rates to slow down the economy to allow supply to catch up. As a result, the labor market has slowed down as well.
Hiring rates in the U.S. have dipped to 3.5% in March 2024, following heights during and after the pandemic. Total job postings declined more than 15% at the end of 2023 compared to the year prior. There was one open job for every active applicant on LinkedIn in 2022. By the following year, that ratio turned to one job for every 2 active applicants.
When there are more candidates on the market looking for jobs and less...
Yeah, it's crazy out there. I know people that said that they've applied to 200, 300, 400 jobs, via LinkedIn or other career posting websites. And I feel sad for people sometimes. I haven't had to work at a job in over 15 years. I worked a little bit as a barber instructor and an admissions representative and a curriculum director at a barber college. And it was for a short stint, maybe 2 years or so like that. It wasn't because I had to. It was just because I was networking. I owned 2 barbershops and everything like that. But, in terms of, having to depend on having a job, I haven't had to do that in over 15 years. I've always worked for myself. But when I hear people in these stories about, what they're going through in terms of trying to find a job and going through these application processes and using recruiters, it's rough out there. I couldn't do it. And now you got, the advent of artificial intelligence is on the way, and employers are looking at how to cut costs. You just had all these big tech layoffs. They're trying to become more efficient, trying to, increase their value and their stock prices. So, everything is trending, in my opinion, everything is trending against the employee. And that's why I'm so big on promoting the creator economy, because I think a lot of the employment economy is going to have to shift over to the creator economy, because, there's low barrier to entry, ways to make money. There's no limit on attention. Everybody's going to need to garner attention in the future for something. So let's keep going with this and see where we go.
Jobs out there. The job market becomes more competitive for job seekers. But for employers, that means they get their pick of talent.
If a job says that it requires no experience, But 100 people apply and many of them do have experience. Well, of course the employer is going to take the person with the most experience. We also are in a high interest rate environment where companies have less access to capital, and so they're less prepared to take a risk. They're only hiring where needed for sure bet jobs, and they're not being that experimental anymore.
There's another reason,
Being more lean.
and that is about the hiring process per se, which has changed. Employers increasingly got rid of recruiters.
2023 saw a sharp decline in online job postings for job recruiters, with several prominent companies like Google, Apple, and Amazon laying off a significant number of recruiters and employees in the HR department.
The recruiters were the kind of professional people who understood the job market, understood jobs, and would go to the line managers and say, hey, this job doesn't need 5 years experience. With those people gone, there's no real pushback on hiring requirements. Line managers who really aren't experts on this stuff, they might ask their team, what do you think you need to do this job? And they say, well, it'd be nice to have a master's degree. Well, somebody who has 5 years experience, that would be great too. And so the requirements inflate, and then they can't find anybody to fill the job. And they say, oh, there's a skills gap. There's a problem in the labor force. And they don't raise the wages either, right? So you're trying to fill the same job at the same pay, but now you're requiring more background, more experience, more years of education. Guess what? Hard to do.
Man, that's why I say, man, these employers, they don't care about you, man. Like they just want you to be like a indentured servant, but you can't get mad at them because you have the power to be who you want to be. You have the power to change your dynamics and take yourself out of that position if you want to. So, some people are okay, and some people haven't had any problems with finding employment. And if that's you, that's fine. There's no problem. But for people that, are having a hard time with finding employment, always getting rejection letters, always, not being chose when you're interviewing, or complaining about not being able to find the position that you want, the pay that you want. We're going into a time where it's time to take your future into your own hands. When you're working at an employer, your future is left in their hands. They could fire you when they want to. You got to pray that they don't. You could be there 20 years and they could let you go just because they restructured the company or because interest rates went up and they got to get more lean. But when you take your future into your own hands, you make your own income, you generate your own money, you become a producer, you become a creator, you stop being so much of a consumer, and no one can fire you. I mean, yeah, you still have relationships and, you got to have mutual beneficial, valuable relationships with your customers and your clients, but that's totally in your control. You could be doing that for an employer and they still fire you anyway for whatever reason. At will, they call them at will states. They can fire you at will for anything. So, I talk to people and, I get it. It's tough. It could be difficult because people's minds are not set up that way. People have been conditioned to work for other people so much that they don't have it in their mind to work for themselves because they feel like it's too big of a risk. But somebody like me, I feel like it's too big of a risk to work for somebody. I've never felt like it was safe working for somebody ever since I was 19 years old. 19 years old. At the age of 19, I knew I was going to be working for myself for the rest of life. So I've never felt like it was safe to work for someone else, but some people feel like that's the safest thing to do is to work for somebody else. Even though they could fire you, they could let you go, they can put a freeze on how much they pay you. And then you got to kiss butt and play politics. It's not my cup of tea. It's not my sport. Let's go ahead and get into this a little bit more. I think this is good information that we're learning about. Hopefully this is adding value to somebody that's watching. Let's keep it going.
As companies grow more selective, 54% of recruiters said quality of hire will be their top priority for 2024 through 2029. 83% of chief human resource officers said they're hiring talent with specialized skills while hiring fewer new employees than they did a year ago.
What we're seeing on LinkedIn is that for employers, skills are becoming.
It's time to skill up. I always tell people skills pay the bills. If you want to be more valuable in terms of people being able to hire you, it's not going to be about the credentials that you have on paper in the future. The credentials are going away. What's going to matter, the paper part of it is going away, but the skill behind the paper, or the skills that maybe not even include any paper. Some skills you have, you don't get paper for, but those skills are still going to be valuable. And I always tell people that skills pay the bills. And so if you want to increase your value in the marketplace as somebody that can bring value and get paid for that value, you guys have to figure out what skills are going to be valuable going into 2025 to 2030 to 2035, 2040. Like you have to actually, you have to, because it's very, very, very possible that the skill that you have been working with for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years could be gone and not needed tomorrow. Like you guys have to realize that you have to continue surveying the landscape, looking at the market and asking yourself what skills are going to be valuable moving into the future, moving into retirement. Like it's important. You don't want to be left behind. That's the reason why I tell people, looking into tech, looking into AI, looking into content creation, like those skills are here to stay. Look at where the money is going. Follow the money and what skills need to be built around where that flow of money is going to.
Priority. 73% of recruiters say that is a priority when they're trying to source candidates. They want to know what skills they have, what they can actually do.
What employers want is evidence that you can actually do the work. The other thing is they want somebody who's done exactly that job before and not something that looks quite similar.
Hiring for entry-level and less specialized positions dropped from 79% in 2022 to just 61%.
Typically, when the labor market slows, entry-level workers are hit a bit harder than overall workers.
We don't have real entry-level jobs, hardly at all. Every employer wants to hire somebody who's already worked someplace else.
Entry-level jobs only account for 2.5% of all the jobs posted on ZipRecruiter as of the end of April 2024, and just 1.9% of all jobs available today say they do not require experience at all. Over a third of employers refrain from hiring recent Gen Z college graduates in favor of older employees, with more than half saying recent college graduates are unprepared for the workforce. A survey also found that more than half of Americans.
It's a shift taking place. Them Gen Zers and Gen Alphas that's coming up next, they going into content creation. They going into, Ubering and driving Lyft and, streaming and different things that, they can use to pay themselves. It's a different world, man. So I hope that, people that are in the employment market, they're taking a look at what's going on in the market and making adjustments. I hate when people fall behind and it hits them as if it was a shock to them that, this industry is changing or, this employment sector is changing and they didn't prepare for it. So it's just not a good feeling. That's why you guys stay tuned in to channels like this. We try to keep you guys up to date with what's going on in the market. We're learning. I'm learning. At the same time, we're going to learn together. You don't have to feel uncomfortable over here on this channel. We always down in the comments and, getting to know each other and learning more about what's going on in the market so that we can prepare and take care of ourselves and take care of our families, because that's what's really important at the end of the day. If this video resonated with you guys, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Also, make sure you tap the link in the comments to tap into my mastermind community or any of my clubs. And as always, until next time, I will see you guys in the next video.